Hey there guys, it's Tina and I am back. And I have what I hope is going to be a fun video for you guys today because we are playing with the Tiny Marvels palette from Mel Thompson and Sydney Grace Cosmetics. So Mel Thompson collaborated with Sydney Grace Cosmetics. So two of my faves have come together. I love Sydney Grace Cosmetics. Their eyeshadow formula is top notch. It's so good. And they teamed up with Mel Thompson here on YouTube, who I love. She keeps me entertained, okay? Because she is always uploading and she always has great content. So if you don't know who Mel is, yeah, you're gonna want to go ahead and check her out. Now, I know you've probably seen this palette like a million times by now because a lot of creators have showcased this palette on their channels. They've done multiple looks. There was even a collaboration where multiple creators came together and did like a big collaboration to showcase this palette. Now, I was without Wi-Fi and power for the last few days because the hurricane turned tropical storm made its way up to New York and just knocked down some trees. Like, it moved so fast, but it knocked down everything, okay? So I am just getting around to doing my video for this palette, but I still wanted to get my video out there because I wanted to play with this palette, show you my swatches, and also give you a couple of looks. So that's what we're gonna do in this video. So this Tiny Marvels palette, like I said, collaboration with Sydney Grace. There are 15 shades in this palette, and the Tiny Marvels is inspired by Mel's love for insects and little critters. She has tons of tattoos with little insects and bugs on her, so it's like it fits in with her aesthetic, and her tattoo artist actually created the artwork for this. And inside we have what I would consider a muted neutral palette with pops of pastel color, and they're still very subtle, just downplayed color. It's nothing too bold or exciting or in your face. It's very wearable. So if you're looking for an approachable palette with a couple of pops of color, then I think this was a great selection of shades. I wasn't sure what to expect when it came to this palette and Mel. I was like, what is she gonna come out with? Because to me, she is just fierce. She has her bald head. Well, she's growing her hair out now, but she buzzed her hair. She was platinum blonde pixie for a while too, and she is covered in tattoos, and she has such a fierce fashion sense. So I expected this palette to be va va voom in your face. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, let me find out Mel is pulling out her softer, more feminine side with this. And the insect theme actually still fits in with Mel because of her tattoos and her fascination with insects, and that carries through to the names of the eyeshadow. So she has names like Mantis and Love Bug and Tree Hopper and Web. So you'll see the names kind of have that insect theme as well. And I actually had fun with this palette. I created 2.5 looks, and I say 2.5 because I did 2 looks and then I did a twist on the second look to give you a third option, but I'm just gonna call it 2.5. But I want to share swatches before we jump into any looks because I want you to see how these swatch on my skin, how they look. I did swatches on my Instagram, and you're sure to have seen swatches from numerous people, and there are multiple looks that you can check out too. But I, of course, have to put my little toe in the ring and give you my own version of looks from this palette. So without much further ado, wait. I should tell you the price of this. So this is gonna retail for $52. You can get 15% off using a discount code. So I have one, it's the Fancy Face 15, that you can get 15% off. That is just the discount code, not an affiliate code. So you get a discount, I don't get a kickback. And I think Mel also has a discount code. Sydney Grace isn't doing affiliate codes just yet, so these are strictly discount codes for you guys to get 15% off. And you're getting 15 shades in this palette, and they're pretty nice size eyeshadows. So they're not skimping on product here. You're getting your money's worth. And like I said, the formula is the same as any Sydney Grace eyeshadow, and they performed just as well. So now let's go ahead and jump into the swatches, and then after the swatches we're gonna go ahead and jump into looks. Alright, let's go ahead and do some quick swatches of the palette. So the first shade up is Web. This is a light white champagne shimmer with a little bit of a golden undertone, like a yellow gold champagne. What am I talking about? Like a pale champagne. Then we have Tree Hopper. Ooh, Tree Hopper is a little bit loose and powdery there. All right, I got rid of the excess. This one is a matte peach brown shade. This would work great in the transition area or all over the lid. That actually applies pretty well, has great pigmentation. It's just a little bit powdery, so watch out for that excess powder. Then we have Fire Butts, which is for fireflies, or in Jamaica we call it a peenie wally. I know, lightning bugs, whatever. I don't know where we came up with peenie wally, but it's a peenie wally in Jamaica. So this one is a muted, almost like, yeah, like a yellow champagne, because it is a champagne shade, but it has a lot more yellow gold to it. Really beautiful, applies very smoothly. This is what I expect from Sydney Gray shimmer shades, so far so good. The next three shades up we have our Walking Stick, which is a matte olivey brown. This one is not as loose as Tree Hopper, but it does take some building up. Let's grab a little bit more. I think I created hard pan just from the oils in my fingers, which can happen when you swatch with your finger. You create an oily film at the top of the eyeshadows. But this one applies really well. You see it's like an olivey khaki brown. That is a beautiful transition shade if you're using like the greens in this palette. I really like that. Then we have the shade on my middle finger, which is Scarab, which is a beautiful beetle shade. So this shade is Red Chameleon in the permanent line. This is the only permanent shade that Mel used in this palette. And this is one of my favorites because it's like a red-brown base with that green shift. So it's like green-brown pigment from MAC. A lot of companies have this kind of shade and it's beautiful and it fits a Scarab. So I do think that's a stunning shade to add in. And then you can use these three shades together because they have a little bit of that olivey undertone. You'll see up against each other, you can see that they pair well. And then we have Flutterby, which is a matte peachy coral. This shade actually came broken in my palette. It wasn't shattered, so I didn't have to completely get rid of it. I just had to get rid of the broken part. And it layers up pretty well. It does take some building up because it is a lighter shade, but it's a beautiful peachy coral. And you can use that in a subtle look or all over the lid if you wanted to go for the more pinky tones in the palette. Moving on to the other three shades. So we have BB, which is a beautiful celebration of her and Kelsey Brianna J's friendship. I love them together. This one is a beautiful, like really bright yellow gold. I am not the biggest fan of yellow gold, but this one has a little bit more warmth to it, so it's like a sunshine yellow almost rather than like a gold. If this had a little bit more orange or copper to it, I'd be done. But it's still a stunning shade, applies really smoothly. Then here we have Mantis, which was an interesting shade actually. When I saw this, I was like, huh? I just didn't see Mel in this shade. But then it's meant to represent a praying mantis, and we know praying mantises are green. Did you know that these are protected in China? So I went to China and I saw a praying mantis and I was like, oh my god, I love him. And they're like, oh, stay away, they're protected. Maybe that's no longer the case, but that's what I was told when I was there. So this is a muted pastel green shade. It's actually pretty and it layers up well. Look at that color payoff for such a pale shade. These colors, even though they're very subdued, subtle shades, the pigmentation is definitely there for them. Then we have Meadow Hawk. Is Meadow Hawk a bug? I've never heard of that. Is that like, I thought that was like a bird. Maybe because of the hawk. Maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know bugs like that. I hate bugs, by the way. But this is a beautiful like pink with a golden peach shift. This would go well with the Flutterby shade. So you can pair those two shades together to get a look. Alright, next three shades. Alright, so we have Love Bug. I think this is for a husband. This is a muted mauve-y shade. It looks like a rosy mauve and it layers up pretty well. Again, this would go well with these more pinky tones. Or you can pair it with Jewel Bee, which is that lavender shade. Let's get a little bit more for that one. This one is a matte pastel lavender. Let me just even out the swatch. It's not that I'm building up pigmentation. I just want to get a full swatch for that one. So this one is that muted light lavender. It's actually a pretty shade. Now these two shades go really well together. So I want to actually use that shade in a look. Then here we have Marvel, which is a rose gold shade, or like a rosy bronze. That is also stunning. It applies really well. Again, Sydney Grace's shimmers, just listen, I have no issues with them. So that is a stunning shade. And let's finish up with the last three shades that are mattes. These last three matte shades are not as loosely packed as the other shades. So this first shade is Death Moth. I feel like I just had a little bit of a lisp saying that, Death Moth. So this one is a medium tone gray brown shade, and that is more on the neutral side. So you would have to pair that with the more neutral colors in this palette. And then we have Bugaboo, which is a like a plummy brown. It's definitely more on the mauvey red brown side, like a rosy brown. It builds up really nice. It's really smooth. Sydney Grace shades are never patchy. Like the mattes are never patchy for me, which I appreciate. And then the last shade is Spider. Hate spiders, get them away. But this one is spelled with a Y, so I'm just gonna run with that. This is the darkest shade in the palette, and it's a rich espresso brown, so it has more of a neutral undertone to it, so it will go with the shade Death Moth in a neutral look, and you can use this to darken up the rest of the shades. So here are all the shades swatched. It's a very muted color story with some pastel pops of color. But if you cover up like the colorful shades, you'll see that it's a very subdued color story. Very, very simple, very wearable, nothing too intense here, which I thought Mel would have done more sultry, bold colors. But I guess I don't really know what shade she is into personally. I just always see her as this badass vixen because she has stunning tattoos that are bright and colorful, and then she has a great sense of fashion. So I just expected it to be a little bit more va-va-voom, but it definitely is a wearable palette, and it gives us a softer side of Mel, and the colors actually look pretty nice on my skin tone. And with Sydney Grace shades, the shimmers apply well, the mattes apply well. I have no issues with pigmentation for any of these shades, so the formulation is definitely on par with the eyeshadow singles from Sydney Grace. A couple of the shades are powdery, like Tree Hopper, Walking Stick, Mantis, Flutterby, and Lovebug. Even Jewel Bee is a little powdery, so just be careful with the kick up of those shades. Not a big deal for me, just be mindful of that. And then the last three matte shades are actually really well pressed. Like they're not too hard pressed or too soft, so those are beautiful. So all in all, I think it's a cute color story, and we're gonna go ahead now and jump into some looks. Now that you've seen the swatches and you have an idea of how these look on my skin, let's go ahead and give you 2.5 looks from this palette. Okay, so we're gonna start out with the shade Flutterby, which is the matte coral shade, and we're just gonna buff that in the crease area with a large blending brush. This is the Sonia G Detail Pro Brush. And we're just gonna buff that windshield wiper motions just to get, ooh, a nice wash of color. That color is actually pretty intense, wow. And we're just gonna pull a little bit of that out to the outer crease area and outer V, and just blend it lightly upwards to the brow bone. Then we're gonna go in with the shade Love Bug, which is the mauvey purple shade, on a smaller crease brush. This is just a little bit smaller, a little bit tighter, and we're gonna blend that on the outer V and also in the crease, but staying just a little below where we have the coral shade, the Flutterby shade. Just creating a little bit of dimension and a little bit of purple blend. Alright, now we're gonna go in with the shade Jewel Bee, which is the bright lavender shade. And I'm going to pack that on the lid with a jumbo blender from Sonia G. This is just a large eyeshadow brush, so it's gonna pack that color on, give me the color payoff that I want, and because of the shape, it kind of just blends the edges as well without me having to actually blend the edges. But look at that color payoff from that pastel lavender. That lavender though, it's stunning. Let's go back in with the shade Love Bug just to build up again on that outer crease, and we're gonna use that to help blend out the lavender. I feel like we could have skipped the coral in the crease line actually, because this lavender and the Love Bug shade actually go a lot better together, but that's fine. We'll just use the shade to blend out the edge with the coral. Now we're gonna go in with the shade Bugaboo. This is the matte deep red brown shade. I might touch a little bit of Spider, which is the blackened brown, and mix it together with that Bugaboo shade to get the color that we want, because I don't want this to be a brown, I want it to be more red. So I'm using a smaller crease brush just to get the definition on that outer V. So we're going between the shade Bugaboo, which is gorgeous, right? And it's giving us depth, and then just a touch of Spider to add a little bit more intensity to that outer V. And that is building up so easily. That is stunning. It's not patchy. You can see it's not skipping. That is amazing. All right, let's just blend out the edge a little bit more. Then for the highlight, I'm gonna get the littlest amount of Web, and we're gonna just touch that right at the high point of our brow. That is an okay, that's a little bit too intense for my for my liking. So we're gonna touch it just a little bit, then we're gonna go in with Tree Hopper, which is the tan shade, and let's just blend that out a little bit, because that got a little bit too intense. It went from 0 to 100 real quick, but with this tan shade, it's gonna tame it for our darker skin tone. So let's just blend that guy out a little bit. And that actually looks pretty nice with the tan. Ooh, the tan shade you can use, that's Tree Hopper, you can use it in the crease line as well as a transition blending shade. All right, that looks pretty good. Inner tear duct, should we do something there? I'm gonna use a little bit of the Web shade mixed in with a bit of Meadow Hawk right on that inner tear duct, just to give it a little brightening, lifting effect, but I don't want it to be too stark, so I'm not gonna use the Web shade by itself, but Meadow Hawk is not as bright as we would want to lift that inner tear duct. So we're mixing the two, and these shades, the beauty about Sydney Gray shades is that they mix easily together to give you a different shade. Some shades don't really mix together well, but these two shades mix well. All right, let me do some face work and then we'll come back and finish up the eyes. All right, to finish up the lower lash line, I'm gonna go in with the shade Spider, which is the deepest, darkest brown, and run that on the outer lower lash line, pulling it about 3/4 of the way in, not going all the way to the inner tear duct. Ooh, that's giving us some smoke. And then, because we're feeling sassy, we're going in with the shade Mantis, which is the green, on the inner lower lash line. Ooh, that actually comes out really nice. Look at that. That's like a pop of color on that inner lower lash line. Yes. Okay, that came down a little bit too far. Hold up. Let's clean it up because I don't need my under eyes to look green. All right, let me go ahead and apply mascara, lips, face, and all that, and show you the final look. To finish up the cheeks, I'm going in with a dusty mauvey pink blush. This is from Sydney Grace. It's the shade Empower. It's a matte shade, but be careful with it because it has those mauvey purple undertones. It can look like you were playing with your brother in a slap fight and y'all got rough and tumble and he slapped you in your face because you have like a bruisey cheek. So just be careful with that. Blend it out completely. And then I'm going to go in with a highlight, which is also from Sydney Grace Cosmetics. This is the shade Sun-Kissed Peach, and it's one of my favorite highlighters from Sydney Grace. It's a peachy pink highlighter with golden sheen. And again, another shade you need to be careful with because you can go overboard. I don't like a fierce, shiny highlight. That's not my jam. Like, I really want a subtle highlight. But if you want a blinding highlight, this can definitely work for you. I'm just gonna blend the heck out of this because I need it to look seamless on my skin. And then I'm gonna go in with some bronzer. And for this, I'm using my airbrush bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury. It's the Matte Bronzing Filter for Face and Body in the shade Tan, number 3. And I'm just gonna apply that to my hairline, my temple area, and also on my cheek, just to get a little sculpt, a little color to the skin. And to finish up, we're gonna do a 90s inspired lip because I was just watching the WAP video, and Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion had on 90s lips and I was here for it. So we're gonna start out with a dark lip liner. This is from KKW Beauty. This is shade Nude 3, which is a beautiful deep brown liner. And I low-key really like the liners from KKW Beauty. I know. But just trust me, they glide on so well, they blend in so well, and the shades are just on point. So I'm gonna apply that to the lips, and then I'm going in with a NYX Suede Matte Lipstick. This is the shade Free Spirit. This is such a beautiful peachy nude. Oh my god. So I'm just gonna apply that to the center of my lips. It's pigmented, it's smooth, it applies really well, stunning. And then to finish it up, we're gonna go old school. We're gonna pull out a Lancome Juicy Tube Original. These are coming back, guys. So this is the shade Pure, which is just a clear gloss. And I'm gonna just put that over my lips to give it a pouty, shiny look. And oh my god, this is so pretty. What I like about the Juicy Tubes from Lancome is that they're very shiny, very beautiful, but they feel lightweight. They're not sticky at all. So that's what we're gonna have on the lips, and I think the lips look amazing. Now, as far as the eyeshadow goes, what do you guys think? I think this turned out beautiful. I really love the lavender on the lids, but I must say it fades a little bit. So it's not gonna be as intense as you probably expect at first. It's gonna dull down a little bit because these shades are definitely more muted. But I love how everything turned out. Even the green on the lower lash line turned out so beautiful. Oh my god. And everything just works. So I really like this look. Should we go ahead and do another look right now? I think we should. So let's go ahead and try something different on the eyes. Alright guys, so we're gonna keep the face as it is and we're gonna go in with the next look. So I'm gonna start out with the shade Tree Hopper, and this shade is just the matte camel shade in the palette, and I'm just gonna buff that in the crease area, and that's gonna serve as our transition blending shade. And we're just gonna apply that in a quick wash with the Detail Pro from Sonia G. Then let's pick up the shade Walking Stick, which has more of an olivey undertone, and we're gonna pop that on the outer V and outer crease, kind of like we did with the Love Bug shade in the previous look. We're using this color to create a gradient, and since it has that khaki undertone, a little bit of olive green, it's gonna work with the greens that we're gonna use in this look. So we're just gonna blend that on the outer V and outer crease area. You're not trying to be too precise, you're just gonna get a wash of color in that area. Setting powder. Then we're gonna go in with the Mantis shade, which is the pastel green, and we're gonna pop that on the lid, just like we did the lavender. So we're almost creating the same look with a different color story, which isn't that what we mainly do anyway? We have the same style of eyeshadow application and we just swap out the colors. But look at this green, guys. Isn't it stunning? For a pastel green, it really does pick up well. So I'm just packing that on again with the Jumbo Blender from Sonia G. And I'm packing that all the way over the lid, not leaving much space for anything. Then I'm gonna grab a smaller blending brush and grab the shade Spider, which is the dark brown, and we're just gonna pop that on the outer V. Not coming too far in. Ooh, this is like a mint chocolate look, right? because it's like green with some chocolate. This is nice. I really like this. Okay, so just blend the edge of that brown in with the green, not coming too far in because we want that green to really stand out on the lid, but we still want to create that dark dimension on that outer V, kind of smoking it out a bit, giving it that chocolatey look. Oh my god, that looks so good. Stunning. We're gonna leave the brow bone highlight as it is. We already did that before and I'm not gonna change it. But on the inner tear duct, let's go ahead and grab the shade BB. This is the bright yellow gold, and that's gonna go well with the green because, you know, green, gold, all the stuff. This looks really fun, guys. Okay, so I'm popping the yellow. That applies so well to that inner tear duct. And then I'm just gonna grab a little bit of Fire Butts, which is the lighter sparkly champagne shade, and pop it right over that yellow gold. And that's gonna tame the yellow a little bit, but still give it a yellow gold look. So that is fantastic. Blend out the edge with the green, but don't pull it too far in. Now on the lower lash line, I'm gonna go in with the shade Scarab, which is the beautiful duochrome, well, multi-chrome shade, where it's the red brown base with the green. And if you just want this shade, it's Red Chameleon. It is the only permanent shade that Mel included from Sydney Grace. So I'm just gonna pop that on the lower lash line, and then I'll go in with the shade Spider again and just apply that to the outer lower lash line just to add a little bit more smokiness. That shade came down a little bit too far, so we're just gonna clean that up with our foundation or concealer brush in this case, just buffing out the edge of that under the lower lash line because we don't need it all the way down there, right? Now this color would look great on its own, like on the lid, but that's not what we're doing today. So mascara again and lower waterline liner. Alright guys, so here you have the final mint chocolate look, and I think this turned out really great. It's so fun, and I only used a couple of shades. They built up well. The eyes turned out fantastic. Everything blended well. Nothing is skipping. Nothing gave me any trouble. Like, right? This is really, really fun. So should we move on to a third look? Can my eyes manage a third look? I kind of want to do something a little bit more sexy, smoky. Maybe we can try to apply it over this. Should we try? Let's go ahead and try to do a little bit of a modification to this look then. So I'm going to dampen an eyeshadow brush, and we're gonna go in with the shade Scarab, the one that we have on the lower lash line, and we're just gonna apply that to the minty chocolate part of the lid. So wherever we have the green shade, we're just gonna go over it with Scarab. And if you were doing this look from scratch, obviously you would just use Scarab on its own instead of using the minty Mantis shade. But since I don't want to ruin my eyesight, let's go ahead and just pop that over the Mantis shade. And that color is stunning, and this is gonna give us that smoky look, and I'm just gonna blend that in with the chocolate, right? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you can do this with any red brown shade you have or green brown shade. I think this is a great way to incorporate this color. Let me go ahead and just blend around the edge of this color. Now this is gonna have a little bit more green hint to it. Maybe you can't, yeah, it's fading away now that I'm blending it. The mint shade is somewhat still popping up underneath that, but you can accomplish that on your own by layering the shades or just mixing the shades together to get that minty look as well if you so choose, because it's already in the palette, right? So this is a way to make this look a little bit more sassy, a little bit more smoky, and I think this looks great as well. So here you have another version of a look that you can create from this palette. And I think that is great. So to me, there are a number of things that you can do with this palette. And I already gave you like 3 versions of that. So how about I show you a couple of color combinations just swatched on my arm so you can get an idea of how to combine shades, because I know that can be helpful. So I really like the shade Marvel, which is kind of a rose gold shade. I would put that all over the lid where we currently have the Scarab shade, right? And I would put Death Moth, that shade right there, in the crease line. And that's gonna darken up the crease a little bit, give us a little bit of dimension. And then I would go even deeper on the outer V with Spider, just to give a really simple neutral look. So to me, those 3 shades would work well together. Another look you can do is grab Meadow Hawk, which is the golden peach shade. Grab a little bit of Flutterby in the crease, so remember that first shade that we used in the first look, and deepen this look up with Bugaboo. And this is gonna give you a warm toned, simple, neutral eye. You can even go bold with the BB shade, so put that on the lid or use it as a halo eye, right? And then use the darkest shade Spider to deepen it up, because that's gonna go well with that shade. It's not necessarily gonna throw it off like the Bugaboo shade can. You're not gonna include that shade. You're gonna go straight to Spider. And you can even use a little bit of the Death Moth shade. Death Moth, I keep saying that and it sounds like I have a lisp, but use that to blend out the edges or to transition between this really bright yellow shade and the dark brown. But that's another fun trio. Something unexpected, something you would be like, oh my god, maybe I should stay away from that. Why not mix that in? If you want it a little bit toned down, then go in with Fire Butts. That is the champagne shade. And then go in with Death Moth. And of course our Spider shade. That is also a beautiful neutral eye. And then you have Tree Topper that you can use to blend at any time. So overall, I think there's some great looks that you can create from this palette. When I first got the palette, I was a little bit apprehensive, right? Because I was like, I'm not too sure what I'm gonna do with those shades. Like, how am I gonna combine them? And then once I got to playing, I was like, okay, like I can really turn out some fun looks. And since this is the great Sydney Grace eyeshadow formula that I'm used to, these shades were so easy to work with. The shimmers were glorious, they're smooth, they're pigmented, the mattes work well. Just be careful with the kick up from the shades that I mentioned before that can be a little bit looser. But yeah, I actually really had fun with this palette. So hopefully you guys were able to get your hands on this if you wanted to support Mel or you just wanted to try out the Tiny Marvels palette. If not, hopefully you can get it on the restock because it's such a fun palette. If you want to get a discount of 15% off, I'll leave my code right here. It's not an affiliate code, it's just a discount code. So you can use Mel's code or whoever. It doesn't matter since neither of us would get a kickback. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed my swatches, and just having fun with me playing with these eyeshadows, and you enjoyed the looks that I created. So as usual, I'm going to go ahead and leave a full list of the products mentioned down below in the description box, along with links on where you can pick them up. If those links have asterisks next to them, that means that they're affiliate links, which means I will get a small sales commission if you make a purchase through those links. If you're not comfortable with that, that's totally fine. Shop the way you normally shop. No muss, no fuss. But if you do shop through my links, thank you so much because it does help me to put right back into the channel, and it is a great way to show your support. We'll also leave links to my Instagram and Twitter where you should be following me along. And until my next video, which will be very soon, I'll talk to you. I don't know why I'm doing this, but until my next video that will be very soon, I'll talk to you. Bye guys.